Professor Zrax drifted into the classroom, his translucent, shimmering form alight with barely contained excitement. Today's lesson, he knew, would be one for the records, hovering above his students, some with eyes wide, others with tentacles twitching. He began with a resonant hum that passed for a throat-clearing sound among his kind. "Greetings, everyone. Today's lesson may linger in your minds or haunt your rest cycles," he announced, letting a nervous murmur ripple through the class. "We're diving into the study of what is perhaps the galaxy's most peculiar species, humans." At these words, the room collectively gasped, and a handful of students reflexively activated their defense mechanisms. One Florian sprouted a forest of spikes, while a nearby pan slid down, transforming into a quivering pool of goo under its desk. Zrax let out a rich, rumbling chuckle that made his gelatinous body quiver. "Relax, relax," he assured them, barely stifling his amusement. "There are no humans here." Yet, attempting to wink, a challenging feat for his physiology, he ended up giving what looked more like a small spasm. Seeing the students gradually relax, he resumed his lecture. "Today, we'll explore one of the most bewildering habits of humans, their approach to food. Specifically, we'll discuss a ritual they call Seafood Day." A tap on the control pad made a holographic display spring to life, revealing a detailed image of Earth's oceans. Earth, as you may recall, is a death world, abundant with bizarre, often lethal creatures. Yet, not only do humans endure these perils, but they actually thrive on this planet. And part of that survival involves consuming things that even the most courageous Zork's warrior wouldn't dare approach. The hologram shifted to showcase an array of Earth's sea life: toothy sharks, writhing octopuses, sharp-clawed crabs, and other bizarre creatures of the deep. Many students shrank back with alarm, but a few leaned forward, morbidly captivated. These, Zrax intoned with dramatic flair, are what humans refer to as seafood, and yes, in case you're wondering, they eat it. All of it. A tentacled Trosian raised a cautious appendage. "Professor, these creatures look capable of devouring a planet." Zrax's body wobbled with laughter. "Oh, my naive younglings, if only. Humans don't just eat these creatures, they revel in it. Some even hold festivals centered around the consumption of these underwater beasts." The display switched to an image of a human preparing to bite into a lobster claw. The class collectively winced. "And now, I know the question on your minds," he continued, his voice rich with irony. "But Professor Zrax, how can such squishy, vulnerable beings possibly conquer these armored monstrosities?" He grinned, or the closest approximation he could manage, and changed the display to a human kitchen. "You see, humans have invented all manner of devices to aid them in this bizarre pursuit. Take a look at the infamous nutcracker." He zoomed in on the metallic, claw-like tool. A few students emitted quiet whimpers. "This brutal device allows humans to snap open even the hardest exoskeletons with ease. And that's only the beginning. They possess an entire collection of tools dedicated solely to devouring sea creatures." Zrax's gelatinous body quivered, a mix of apprehension and intrigue evident in his tone as he delved further into his lecture. "But there's more. Humans don't just eat these ocean-dwelling beasts. They've turned it into a gathering, a social ritual. Picture this: coming together with your clutchmates to ceremonially dismantle and consume the most fearsome creatures your world has to offer. This, students, is what humans call a seafood boil." The hologram shifted to display a long table covered in layers of newspaper, heaped with steaming, red-shelled crustaceans at the center. Humans gathered around it, laughing and chatting as they tore through the shells with their bare hands. In the front row, a crystalline Volan student promptly fainted, their body clinking to the floor. Zrax paused, watching as two classmates helped move the fainted Volan to the recovery area. Now, he said with mock cheer, "let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're just getting to the most astonishing part." His gaze glistened with excitement as he continued, "Let's talk about how they prepare these poor creatures." The display changed, showing a live lobster being plunged into a pot of boiling water. The class erupted into horrified cries, squawks, and one deeply pained moo. "Yes, that's exactly what you're seeing. Humans often cook these animals alive, claiming it keeps the meat at its freshest. Apparently, the only thing better than eating a sea creature is eating one freshly dispatched." Zrax gave his students a moment to process this unsettling concept, watching as their expressions ranged from disgust to disbelief. The tension was palpable, and he could almost feel the future nightmares taking root in their minds. It was perfect. "But hold on," he interjected, raising his voice above the distressed murmurs. "Before you stampede out of the classroom, remember one crucial detail. These humans, who casually dine on creatures that would have most of us fainting on sight, they are seeking to join the Galactic Federation." The room fell utterly silent, save for a faint whimper from a gloan in the back row. "That's correct," Zrax continued. continued, with a blend of awe and concern. This species, who thinks of feasting on apex predators as a weekend hobby, wants to join us and mingle among the civilized worlds. Imagine inviting a human to a diplomatic banquet. You'd have to secure the entire buffet to make sure they don't assume the Zoran ambassador is part of the menu. A nervous ripple of laughter spread across the class. Zrax watched with satisfaction as his students began to accept the absurdity of it all, their terror gradually melting into an odd sense of fascination. Now, let's attempt to delve into the human psyche and uncover, if we even can, the reasoning behind this behavior. Is it an act of dominance, a strange courtship display, or just an unspoken rule that if it moves, it's edible? Zrax summoned a new hologram displaying a human seafood restaurant. The walls were adorned with fishing nets, anchors, and what looked like preserved remnants of various marine creatures. Humans have entire establishments devoted to eating these aquatic horrors. They call them seafood restaurants, though dens of deep-sea dread or dining rooms of Davy Jones' locker might be more fitting names. And that last one is a curious human nautical phrase that still boggles my membranes. He zoomed in on the restaurant's menu board. Let's examine some of the dishes, shall we? Here's one: squid ink pasta. As if consuming the creature itself wasn't enough, they had to incorporate its bodily fluids into a dish. A Zarian student in the third row turned a nauseous shade of chartreuse before hurriedly excusing themselves. And here's a popular favorite: shark fin soup. Yes, they make soup from the appendages of one of the ocean's apex predators. Perhaps living on a death world forces them to show their place atop the food chain. Zrax's gelatinous form rippled with something that might have been a shiver. But possibly the most baffling item on this menu of marine monstrosities is a dish known as Rocky Mountain oysters. Now, you're likely thinking they're oysters, those shelled mollusks we discussed earlier. And you'd be half right. Here's the twist: Rocky Mountain oysters have nothing to do with the sea. In fact, they're not seafood at all. He paused for dramatic effect, his body quivering with anticipation. They're bull testicles. The class erupted into utter chaos. Several students bolted for the door, while others shut down entirely, their bodies slipping into various defensive states. Now, class, Zrax called out over the clamor, try to keep yourselves intact. We're here to learn. As the noise died down, Zrax continued, his tone dripping with irony. Humans aren't content with just terrorizing ocean life. They're all-inclusive predators. If it moves, swims, flies, or even if it's merely grazing, humans will find a way to get it onto their plates. He pulled up an image of a sushi restaurant. And just when you think their tastes couldn't be more peculiar, they've come up with something like this. Sushi. The hologram zoomed in on an array of colorful rolls. For those of you who haven't fainted yet, allow me to explain. Sushi is raw fish. Yes, that's correct, raw fish wrapped in seaweed and rice. Apparently, cooking their sea monsters wasn't quite challenging enough, so they decided to eat them as they are, in their natural, uncooked state. A courageous Slan student tentatively raised an appendage. But, Professor, wouldn't eating raw sea creatures bring major health risks? Zrax's body jiggled slightly, as if in agreement. An excellent question. One would assume so, but humans have evolved incredibly resilient digestive systems that allow them to handle a wide range of potentially harmful substances. In fact, some humans actually seek out these risky foods, labeling them as delicacies. He displayed an image of the notorious pufferfish, fugu. Consider this charming specimen. It harbors a neurotoxin over 1,000 times more lethal than cyanide. Just one wrong slice during preparation, and it's game over for the diner. Yet, humans deem this a delicacy. They willingly engage in a culinary game of chance. For entertainment, the class fell silent, each student grappling with this revelation in their own, varied ways. But that's not all, Zrax announced, his voice brimming with exaggerated enthusiasm. Humans don't stop at merely eating dangerous sea creatures. No, that would be far too simple for them. They've turned it into a form of sport. The hologram shifted to reveal humans on a boat wrestling with massive fish. Behold, my bewildered students, what humans call sport fishing. They intentionally seek out the largest, most aggressive fish, battle them for hours, and then either consume them or, and this is the truly baffling part, release them back into the water. A Praxian student, eyes quivering with confusion, spoke up. They let them go after all that effort? Zrax's body pulsed in what might have been a shrug. Precisely. Sometimes the thrill of the chase is enough. It's as if they're telling the ocean, we could dominate you if we wished, but today we're feeling charitable. He switched the hologram again, this time showing a massive whale breaching the ocean surface. And then we have the giants of Earth's oceans, whales. Creatures so vast they could swallow most of us without a second thought. You might assume humans would leave these behemoths alone. Correct. The students once looked hopeful. Wrong, Zrax declared, almost delightedly. Humans once hunted these colossal beings relentlessly. They deployed entire fleets just to harpoon these creatures, rendering them into oil and utilizing every part of their massive bodies. A collective groan of disbelief swept through the classroom. To their credit, Zrax continued, his tone softening, many human societies have since banned whale hunting. They realized, at last, that driving species to extinction for lamp oil and corsets wasn't a wise long-term strategy. He paused, gathering himself as if for a final revelation. And here's the most astonishing part. Despite everything, the hunting, the consuming, the transformation of predators into side dishes, humans now lead efforts in ocean conservation. The hologram shifted to show humans cleaning up beaches, rehabilitating injured sea creatures, and protesting against pollution. Yes, you're seeing this correctly. The same species that treats the ocean like an endless buffet is now spearheading efforts to protect it. They've established vast marine reserves, enforced fishing limits, and are actively working to clean up the very waters they once used as both a pantry and a trash bin. Zrax's tone held a note of reluctant admiration. It's as if they looked at the ocean and thought, we could dominate you. We could consume every creature in your depths. But instead, we'll protect you right after we finish this plate of calamari. The class sat in a dazed silence, struggling to reconcile the dual images of humans as both predators and protectors. And that, students, Zrax continued, is why humans are both the most intimidating and the most intriguing species in the galaxy. They look at a creature like this, he gestured to an image of a great white shark, and think both, I wonder how that would taste, and we should protect this magnificent being. His gelatinous form expanded slightly, preparing for a grand finale. So, what's our takeaway today? That humans are a bit unhinged? Absolutely. That they have iron stomachs and culinary courage rivaling 1,000 Zork's warriors? Without a doubt. But we've also learned that they're complex, contradictory, and capable of remarkable change. Zrax surveyed the room, noting the blend of fear, amazement, and bewilderment on his students' faces, or whatever equivalent expressions they had. And that, class, is why Earth's potential entry into the Galactic Federation stirs up so much debate. Can we truly admit a species that treats ocean predators as part of a menu into our peaceful society? In the back, a hesitant appendage rose. Professor, a timid voice ventured, given their resilience on a death world and their unique relationship with nature, could humans actually be valuable allies? Zrax's body rippled in what might have been a smile. An excellent insight, and there lies the real question. Are humans too unpredictable to join our intergalactic community? Or are they precisely the allies we need to face the dangers lurking in the galaxy's darkest reaches? He paused, letting the thought settle. Picture, if you will, a diplomatic crisis with the fierce Zarian Empire. Who would you rather have at your side? A calm and cautious Van, or a human who looks at the most terrifying sea creature and wonders, how would that taste? A nervous ripple of laughter passed through the room. But before we crown humans as our galactic saviors, let's not forget one important fact, Zrax warned, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. These are also the beings who invented something called a turducken. With a flourish, he pulled up an image of the notorious dish, a chicken stuffed inside a duck, stuffed inside a turkey. The class recoiled as one, horror spreading across their faces. Yes, you're seeing it correctly. For humans, eating one bird at a time just wasn't enough. They went and created this layered bird concoction. It's as if they looked at a meal and thought, what this needs is another meal tucked inside. Zrax paused, letting the full absurdity of human culinary imagination settle over them. And let's not even touch on their competitive eating contests. Imagine a species so secure in their dominance over the food chain that they turn the act of eating itself into a competitive event. Truly mind-boggling. Zrax scanned the room, clearly pleased with the mix of shock, intrigue, and creeping existential dread on his students' faces. But perhaps the most unsettling thing about human eating habits is their adaptability. These creatures can, and often will, consume nearly anything. Zrax pulled up a sequence of images depicting humans sampling exotic foods from all corners of their planet. Observe, fermented shark from Iceland, live octopus from Korea, fried tarantulas from Cambodia, and the infamous durian fruit, which is so pungent it's banned in some public areas on Earth. A Gashlovian student near the front turned a pallid shade of pewter, visibly battling the urge to eject its most recent meal. Oh, don't lose your lunch just yet, Zrax chuckled, his gelatinous form vibrating with amusement. We haven't even discussed their drink selection. Humans willingly consume a substance that impairs their physical and mental functions. They call it alcohol, and it plays a key role in many social rituals. He showed a hologram of a bustling cocktail bar. They mix this mind-altering liquid with various flavors and occasionally even include those sea creatures we talked about. Has anyone heard of an oyster shooter? The class shuddered in unison. But here's the most remarkable part. Zrax continued in a hushed, almost conspiratorial tone. Humans don't consume these things just to survive. They seek out strange and complex flavors purely for the thrill. They have entire professions devoted to crafting unique dishes. They call these pioneers chefs, but a more fitting title might be flavor alchemists or culinary adventurers. He pulled up an image of a high-tech kitchen where chefs were using liquid nitrogen and molecular gastronomy techniques. Take a look. Traditional cooking methods? Not for them. They've transformed their kitchens into scientific laboratories, turning their food into chemistry experiments, and then eating the results. A Zillivan student, its multiple eyes wide with a mix of horror and awe, raised a tentacle. Professor, are you implying that humans view eating as a form of entertainment? Zrax's body rippled in emotion that resembled a nod. Exactly. For humans, eating goes beyond basic survival. It's an art, a social event, and even a personal challenge. They even hold contests to see who can handle the spiciest foods, fully aware of the agony it will bring. They call this asserting dominance over their food. I call it culinary masochism. Zrax switched the hologram to show a human eating contest, where participants were shoveling enormous amounts of food into their mouths at lightning speed. The spectacle caused several students to emit distress signals in various colors and frequencies. Now, I know what you're all thinking, Zrax continued, his voice thick with sarcasm. Surely, Professor, a species this food-obsessed must constantly be at war over resources. He paused, glancing at his students. And, to some extent, you'd be correct. The hologram transitioned to scenes of human agriculture and food distribution. Humans have invented remarkable technologies to grow and share food on a massive scale. They can make deserts flourish and cultivate crops in towering vertical farms within their densely populated cities. But here's the part that defies logic. They produce more than enough food to feed their entire population. Yet, he allowed a dramatic silence to linger. Millions still go hungry every single day. A collective gasp spread through the class. Yes, you heard that right, Zrax confirmed. This species, capable of turning ocean predators into fine dining and barren landscapes into croplands, somehow hasn't perfected food distribution. It's as if they're playing some elaborate game of culinary keep away with themselves. Zrax's form seemed to droop a bit, as though weighed down by the absurdity of it all. Still, despite these obvious challenges, humans continue to push food technology forward. They're pioneering lab-grown meats, 3D printed foods, and exploring methods for sustaining long-term space travel through advanced hydroponics and closed-loop systems. He projected an image of a sleek space farm. Imagine that. The species that drops live lobsters into boiling water is also leading the charge in developing technologies to sustain life on far-off planets and space stations. It's enough to make anyone's logic circuits overheat, isn't it? The class nodded, looking thoroughly bewildered. But perhaps the most intriguing part of all is how central food is to human culture and society. Zrax continued. Humans don't merely eat to live. They eat to celebrate, to grieve, to express love, to negotiate, to mark the passage of time. They have special dishes for specific holidays, comfort foods for times of sadness, and even foods they believe can enhance romantic feelings. He displayed a series of human dining scenes. A family gathered around a Thanksgiving turkey, a couple enjoying a candlelit spaghetti dinner, a group of business people discussing deals over lunch. In many ways, food is the fabric that binds human society. It's a language that bridges borders and cultural divides. Humans may clash over territory or resources, but place them around a shared meal, and suddenly, they begin to find common ground. Zrax paused, his gelatinous form pulsing with genuine fascination. And this, class, is why understanding human eating habits is essential as we contemplate their potential admission into the Galactic Federation. For humans, food isn't merely sustenance. It offers insight into their psychology, adaptability, creativity, and their unique ability to both destroy and protect, Zrax said, scanning the room with satisfaction as he noted his students leaning in, their varied sensory organs fixed on him with rapt focus. Consider this: any species that looks at the most fearsome creatures on their planet and thinks, tasty, is one not to be underestimated. They've so thoroughly mastered their food chain that eating has become entertainment. They're capable of exhausting entire species for food, yet they also pioneer technologies to sustainably feed billions. Zrax's tone shifted, tinged with reluctance expectant admiration. Humans are, in a word, contradictions. They can be shockingly cruel and immensely compassionate, sometimes in the same meal. They might overfish their seas, then lead efforts to protect marine life. They'll create dishes that could easily harm them, yet develop medical treatments to counter the dangers they themselves have introduced. He let the idea settle for a moment before adding, so, the question isn't just whether we should let humans join the Galactic Federation, it's whether we can afford not to. In a galaxy filled with unknown threats, could we really pass on a species bold enough to see a creature like this? He displayed an image of a giant squid, and think, I bet that would taste incredible with garlic butter? The room filled with nervous laughter, punctuated by a few startled squeaks and one very puzzled moo. Now, I'm not suggesting it would be simple, Zrax warned. Bringing humans into our society would undoubtedly bring complications. Just imagine arranging an interspecies diplomatic dinner with a guest who might see the Zarian ambassador as the evening's entree. This time, the laughter was warmer, the students less anxious. But imagine the potential. Need someone to explore a deadly, acid-raining world? Humans won't just volunteer. They'll probably try to find out if the acid rain is edible. Facing an invasion by a hostile species, humans might invite them to a barbecue, perhaps even converting them into allies, or at least adding them as the next exotic item on the menu. Zrax's form seemed to grow, as if expanding with the weight of his own thoughts. In conclusion, class, human eating habits reflect the nature of their species. They are bizarre, occasionally terrifying, sometimes inspiring, but they are never dull. As we move forward with our galactic society, we must ask, are we ready for the creativity, unpredictability, and culinary risks that come with accepting humanity? He surveyed the room, taking in the mix of fear and excitement on his students' faces. Because make no mistake, if we welcome humans to the galactic table, they won't sit quietly, content with a plate of leafy greens. They'll redefine our cuisine, challenge our ideas, and likely attempt to deep fry anything that stays still long enough. A Triloxian student, its crystalline structure humming with both fear and fascination, hesitantly raised a question. Professor, considering everything we've learned, do you believe humans are ready for the Galactic Federation? Zrax's form quivered in what might have been a chuckle. Oh, my dear student, that's not the real question here. The real question is, can the Galactic Federation handle the arrival of humans? The class fell silent as the weight of that question sank in. And on that savory note, Zrax concluded, voice heavy with irony, class dismissed. For your next assignment, I'd like you all to research human food idioms. I expect a full report on phrases like piece of cake, spill the beans, and, my personal favorite, bringing home the bacon, and may the cosmic forces show mercy to your digestive systems. As the students filed out, their murmurs filling the air, Zrax couldn't suppress a small spark of excitement. The galaxy was about to become far more interesting, and potentially much tastier. He glanced at his schedule for the next lesson, human mating rituals and the concept of dating. Zrax's gelatinous form shivered slightly. Some topics, it seemed, were beyond even his tolerance. But that was a matter for another day. For now, he felt an odd craving for sushi. As the last student left, various appendages and sensory organs twitching in bewilderment, Professor Zrax found himself alone with his thoughts, chaotic and astonishing as they were. He drifted over to the window, gazing out at the vibrant alien cityscape beyond. Hovercars zipped between towering crystalline spires, and beings of every imaginable form moved about their daily routines. It was a portrait of galactic harmony, a delicate balance built over millennia of collaboration and mutual respect. And soon, humans would plunge right into the middle of it all. Zrax's form rippled with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. He could almost feel the collective reaction of the galaxy when humans finally made their grand entrance. Greetings, universe, they'd probably say, waving a fork in one hand and a potentially dangerous delicacy in the other. Who's ready to eat? The professor chuckled, a sound somewhere between a gurgle and a hiccup. He had to admit a part of him was eager. Humans, for all their eccentricities, were bound to be entertaining. They'd certainly add life to the painfully dull Galactic Federation meetings. He could already picture it, the Zoran ambassador droning on about trade policies, only for a human delegate to stand up. That's all well and good, they'd say, but has anyone thought of deep frying a Zorian tentacle? Bet it would be perfect with tartar sauce. Cue the galactic uproar. Zrax's body quivered in silent laughter. Oh yes, humans were about to flip the entire galactic order upside down. And maybe, just maybe, that wasn't such a bad thing after all. The galaxy had been in a bit of a slump recently. The same tedious trade disputes, the same territorial disagreements, the same endless debates about the ethical implications of faster-than-light travel on subspace creatures whose existence was still up for debate. Perhaps humans, with their strange culinary traditions and even stranger customs were exactly the shakeup the Galactic Federation needed. Sure, there would likely be a few interstellar incidents along the way. Zrax made a mental note to advise the Groids not to bring up their ceremonial head tentacles in front of humans, unless they were willing to risk them ending up in a stir-fry. But beyond that, humans could bring a fresh perspective. A species that turned the deadliest predators of their world into dinner, that adapted to eat almost anything in any environment, that elevated the simple act of eating into an art, a social event, and even a sport. This was the kind of unpredictability the Federation could use. Yes, humans were undeniably eccentric, but theirs was a type of eccentricity that explored the unknown, pushed boundaries, and looked at the impossible and thought, how would that taste with a bit of hot sauce? Turning from the window, Zrax's gelatinous form pulsed with determination as he moved back to his desk to complete his report for the Galactic Federation Council. He already knew exactly what he wanted to say. In conclusion, he typed, his appendages flying over the holographic keyboard, while humans bring unique challenges to galactic integration. Their adaptability and perspectives make them incredibly valuable allies. Their eating customs, though at times startling, showcase an extraordinary capacity to overcome challenges and thrive even in hostile settings. This xenoanthropologist strongly believes that the advantages of including humans in the Galactic Federation significantly outweigh the risks. He paused, carefully considering his next point. However, I strongly recommend that any diplomatic gatherings with humans include a thorough briefing on which attendees qualify as sentient beings rather than potential snacks. Additionally, the installation of emergency protein resequencers in all government facilities should be prioritized to prevent any spontaneous culinary experiments involving local life forms. With a flourish, Zrax completed the report, feeling quite pleased with his work. Let the council ponder that for a while. The galaxy was in for an interesting new chapter. Just as he prepared to send off the report, another thought crossed his mind. He quickly added a postscript, P.S. In the event of human integration, I highly recommend immediate research into intergalactic food delivery networks. I have a strong suspicion that a Cosmos Eats service, featuring dishes from every corner of the galaxy, might just be the next big thing. And if we don't do it, the humans certainly will. With a pleased gurgle, Zrax sent off his report. He then turned his attention to preparing for tomorrow's lecture, Human Sports, when friendly competition involves potential bodily injury. As he gathered his notes, a flicker of excitement ran through him. The galaxy was about to become far more lively, and no doubt a bit more accident-prone. But, as the humans would say, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. Zrax paused, his gelatinous form halting mid-undulation. Computer, he said, make a note. Research Earth dish called omelet, possibly relevant for next class on human idioms tied to food. The computer beeped in acknowledgement, and Zrax resumed his preparations. Yes, humans were on their way, and the galaxy was bound to change forever. But perhaps he thought that change was exactly what they all needed. After all, life was like a box of chocolates, or so he'd heard. He'd have to remember to inquire about that one as well.